Welcome back to Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing our 49ers versus Eagle predictions. Now, we didn't do this last week. We did this like one or two times last season, but I want to start doing this a little bit just because it's fun. Also, anyone listening, comment your predictions as well. Would love to hear those. Hopefully, someone guesses the score right, and we can shout you guys out on our next week's predictions as well. But for this 49ers Eagles game, the line is -3 for the Niners. I do think they cover, but I don't think this is going to be some crazy blowout game. I think the Eagles roster is a little bit underrated, and I think we saw that in week one. Their offensive identity, it finally feels like they have one. They're going to run the football a ton. They're going to get the ball into their playmakers' hands. Those big three playmakers are going to be Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Zach Ertz, who has been a lot better than years past because it kind of seemed like he was falling off a little bit, and I do think that we're going to see him, if he can stay healthy, have a pretty solid year. So offensively, they're a pretty solid team. In years past, since the Super Bowl run and whatnot, Carson Wentz, I don't think it was really all on Carson Wentz, but it never felt like they really like, all right, how are you going to win? Like there was never like a true path to their offense being successful. This year, I really think there is that path. So I like the Eagles offense a lot more this year than years past. Defensively, they got some big names. Fletcher Cox, he's been one of the best defensive tackles for years. Brandon Graham, solid player. Derek Barnett, former first rounder. Josh Sweat, Ryan Kerrigan. Like they got the defensive line. On the outside, they have Darius Slay. I know Steven Nelson had a really big game last week. Don't love their linebacking core, and ultimately that's what I think is kind of gonna hurt them in this game. 49ers offensive line last week looked absurd. Their ability to seal the edge with George Kittle, Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, Mike McGlinchey as well. He looked phenomenal. Those guys are the keys for the 49ers winning this game for two reasons. One, they can put a ton of points on the scoreboard. And the second reason, the big reason, we've seen this is how the Niners are successful, when they dominate the clock, when they can eat up all the time of possession. And that's what they really want to do against this team. I think this game, I remember that the over-under is like pretty high. I want to say it's like 50. This should be a lower scoring game than I think most people are expecting. Both of these teams are going to really try to run the clocks out when their offenses are on the field and have their defenses resting. Now, the 49ers offense is more explosive for sure, but the Eagles offense is still pretty good. And there's a couple areas that they can expose the Niners defense, potentially at linebacker with Dre Greenlaw out, though I do think that, and we talked about this earlier this week, I do think there's a group of guys that can fill the void left by Dre Greenlaw. But that cornerback 2 spot, they could potentially pick on some guys there. Probably will be Josh Norman, not 100% sure. But really, really intrigued by this game. Before I do like my score predictions and stuff, what's just your overall thought with this matchup, Aiden?
Yeah, I think that you hit it right on the head. I think it's going to be who can run the ball better and who can stop the other team from running the ball. Both of these teams want to run the ball. Jalen Hurts is at his best when he's facing one-on-one coverage and doesn't have to deal with like a stacked box. And I think the Niners have the personnel to make it happen. Obviously, Greenlaw going down hurts that, but we talked about it a couple days ago. Azeez, we both expect to step up. I think whoever can run more consistently is going to get the win. Quarterbacks, kind of a wash. I'm not going to lie. I think Hurts and Jimmy obviously do very, very different things, but give their teams a similar chance to win. Hurts is probably a little bit more explosive, but is super young and was very inconsistent last year. Obviously, played really well against the Falcons, but it is the Falcons. We have no idea how good or bad they are. They looked horrible. And Jimmy's going to make a bonehead throw over the middle that every 49er fan is going to hope is not a pick. So both of them, I think, have strengths, have weaknesses. It's going to come down to the O-line, D-line, which I think are two strengths of the 49ers. Strengths for the Eagles too. They got a deep defensive line who's been together for a long time. They got destroyed on the offensive line injury-wise last year. They got like Lane Johnson back. Huge for them. I think Brandon Brooks was hurt too. So I think it's a middle school mountain football game. Whoever owns the trenches will win this game. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. I don't expect either quarterback to pass for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I think that you bring up a really good point in that it's going to be a lower scoring, tight game with a lot of running the ball.
Yeah, and even if it's not like super tight scoring, I still think it's going to be a pretty like slow, methodical kind of movement for both offenses. Like if a team gets down, I don't think they're going to be like, all right, we got to just completely change everything. We got to start trying to push the ball down the field. Both of them are going to try to stick with their like run heavy schemes, play action. The Eagles offense actually reminds me a little bit of like the offense that he had in Oklahoma, where they could run the ball a whole bunch. And then they're a little bit different because they have the 2 tight ends. But in terms of the Oklahoma had CeeDee Lamb, and we saw that Jalen Hurts would just feed him the football. I think that Devontae Smith is going to be used in a similar way throughout this season. So health is going to be their big thing on offense, but I mean their team is pretty good. Another interesting matchup. I saw some people bring this up on Twitter a while back. The Eagles left tackle, who I do not know a ton about, his name's Jordan Mailata. I think is how you say it, Mailata. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know him very well, but I do know that this man is huge. He's like 380 pounds. He is giant. They're going to try to be a downhill football team. And so Nick Bosa, Dee Ford, Samson Ebukam, Arden Key, anybody that's playing on the outside, Eric Armstead, they're going to have to really win in terms of on their get off. Like they're going to have to absolutely cook him. So maybe you see Dee Ford on that side a little bit more just because we know how quick Dee Ford is. And that's a really hard thing to do. If you're that big, to stay with Dee Ford, who's one of the fastest players off the line of scrimmage in the sport. So I think that we might see a little bit more of Nick Bosa against Lane Johnson. I just think that's a better matchup for the 49ers defense. So would love to see that. Would love to see Nick Bosa build on his performance from last week. I know that some people didn't think he played well. He had a sack. He had 3 quarterback hits, 5 pressures, a couple huge run stops. One of them was on 4th down. I thought he looked great. First game back, he didn't play as much as I think that a lot of people were expecting him to. Like they were subbing him out a good amount, but for the most part, he looked good. Also, people said that he got manhandled. I mean, if you put up those numbers throughout the course of a season, you're probably going to come away with Defensive Player of the Year. They're probably going to run away with it over a 17-game season with those kind of numbers. Also, like he was getting there, so don't know why there was a lot of like people were upset about Nick Bosa. Maybe not quite the dominant performance that people thought against Penei Sewell, who had struggled in preseason. Hadn't really played left tackle. But overall, I'm going to think he's going to build upon that performance. I don't think the 49ers defense is going to rack up a ton of sacks or anything like that. I don't think either defense is. They're going to try to get the ball out quick, try to kind of negate the other team's defensive line, both these offenses. So a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage. Both these teams are very comfortable with that. They're very similarly built, which is weird. At the end of the day, I do think the 49ers have a pretty significant better roster, so I'm probably going to rock with them. I'll say that the final score is going to be 24-16. I think that's good. I think you see the Eagles look good. I think you see the 49ers defense hold. They're going to have to settle for a couple 3 field goals, touchdown. Niners, they've been punching the ball in a lot better. I think that's where their biggest improvement in years past on offense is their red zone offense is going to be a lot better. So I think that's going to be pretty much the ultimate reason why they come away with this game. But I do think it's going to be close. I do think it's going to be a great game. Me and Aiden are actually going to the game, so we're pretty hyped. I mean, I would like to see them run away with it, but I want to see the 49ers win, and I do think they get the job done, and they absolutely should. So that's my score, 24-16.
Yeah, I'm going to go in a pretty similar direction. I'm going to say 27-20. Both of us are hitting the under. And I think both of us expect the 49ers to cover. I think they're a 3-point favorite, and some of that is influenced by the collapse last week. I think if they beat the Lions by 30, like they probably could have, that line's a little bit bigger. Obviously, this is not betting advice, but I expect the 49ers to win. But the Eagles' new coach looked really good in week 1, beat up on the Falcons. The Falcons may be horrible, but they did exactly what they were supposed to do, which is more than the Niners can say. And I think it'll be a good physical game. And I think it'll come down to the end. I think teams will settle for field goals more than they probably want to, and that'll be eventually what dooms the Eagles late.
All right, sweet. I love it. Also, any of you guys, you don't agree with us, you're an Eagles fan listening, you think that we're not giving your team enough credit, let us know. I'd love to hear. So give us your score predictions as well. Super pumped, really happy that finally gonna be back at a football game. It's been quite some time, so that's really exciting stuff. But that's gonna do it for today. Thank you all for listening. Our new schedule is me and Aiden are gonna record on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the most part, Tuesday or Thursday and Friday, and have most of our episodes. I might post something on Monday, just like a quick recap, like going over the game real fast, just a solo vid. But for the most part, it'll be me and Aiden on this channel. So that's gonna do it all for today. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back recapping, talking about this team next week.